The worst horror movie I ever saw was fucking great.
Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we're a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in popular and not so popular franchises. And today we are talking about The Final Destination from 2009. And we got our 3D, John.
We did.
They listened to us since last week and they filmed in 3D, which I was pretty happy about. They
did. I was happy about, but I also, as well as the return of David R. Ellis, who did 2.
Yes.
But I kind of wish we had the 3D for 3 and not this one. Because this one's a little nastier.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, the 3D stuff is great and it's well done. Like because Ellis's whole thing is he didn't want to have just stuff popping out at you. He wanted depth, which is really how 3D works.
Exactly.
There's still a bunch of stuff popping out at you.
Exactly, yeah.
This would be sweet to have seen in 3D. Did you see it in the theater?
I honestly can't remember. I think that I did because of the 3D. I can't really remember though. I either saw part 4 or part 5 in the theater, and I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, I had forgotten that this was actually a 3D one. And so the first 15 minutes of watching this, I was like, ooh, this would be fun in 3D. Ooh, look at that. And then I was like, oh yeah, this has to be actually filmed in 3D.
It took me the way things were shot, and then also just some of the flatness of the way some of the stuff worked. Like, honestly, I didn't figure it out until they were all sitting in the coffee shop, like right after all the stuff goes down.
Yeah.
I'm like, this looks really strange how like everything's still kind of in focus, but they're in the front plane and what? Oh, wait a minute. This is probably 3D. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense why there was so much like, look at this thing pointing at you. And I was like, okay.
So just like the 3 previous films, we get our big inciting incident for the first 15, 20 minutes of this film. It takes place at a racetrack. Right away, someone just says, you come here hoping to see a crash? And I'm just like, commentary, like deep commentary.
Take that,
here.
NASCAR.
Right. Yeah, it's another one of our heroes who just starts seeing things around, like everything from literal just like cracks in the foundation out of nowhere, which kind of made me laugh, to as all of our characters start taking their seats and such, he starts seeing like spills on the racetrack and little things going wrong. Until
this really awkward interaction with a cowboy.
Oh yeah,
that sits in front of them. That like, boy, this better pay off because this is very clumsy. What's happening right now?
Exactly. We get all kinds of stereotypes. Of course, we get the cowboy. We get a character who is just in the script. He was just called racist
and
racist wife. Yes, exactly.
I mean, I understand he's a racist who gives a shit, but try, give him a name like Clem or Terry or something. Just racist. It takes 2 seconds. Name it after someone you don't like.
Right, but is it worse? Is it worse though that one of the other characters, a woman, a mother, is just called MILF in the script?
Yes,
probably that's worse. Yes,
yeah. This does have some, and this one, and getting into part 5, definitely. Starting to get some definite Friday the 13th remake vibes.
Absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have such, it's one of those things how when people are like, oh my God, look at how 80s that is. And the stuff they refer to as 80s is really like the latter half of the 80s because the first half of the 80s was still the 70s.
Kind of the 70s, yeah.
To me, so much of that like mean-spirited and like super sexist shit happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. But in reality, like looking at this and looking at Friday the 13th, like this was a nasty fucking time right now.
Yes.
Where it's just that's the MILF.
Right.
And I don't know if it's legitimately nasty or if it's just that Hollywood had no respect for teens.
Right.
Which I mean, who should?
Yeah.
But
they scare me.
It was I flick my porch light on and off.
Yeah, I do. Yes.
But yeah, like the fact that it was like MILF and like there's just some like Hunt is just a terrible character.
I mean,
why are we hanging out with this guy at all? So I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, that's such a delicate balance. And maybe it's not delicate, maybe not be the right word, but like, obviously horror films, especially with teenagers in them, have a very long history of having unlikable characters. But the best unlikable character is actually kind of like weirdly charismatic, whereas a person like Hunt is just so obnoxious and terrible.
Yeah, he just doesn't have it, and it's not necessarily the actor's fault. It's just like his character sucks.
Yeah,
there's not a whole lot you can do with that.
So we after we're introduced to everybody, the wreck begins. You know, one car after another starts spinning out, a giant explosion. But it's not just cars wrecking on the track. Of course, half of the cars or parts of the cars end up in the stadium seats, tires flinging into the audience and everything. And we see all 8 of our main people just get slaughtered, just like in the others.
I was taken out of it a bit by, first of all, I don't think and I think some of it might be the 3D, but I don't think the CG was that great.
That initial kill was not very good.
Yeah, it didn't age well. Like when the MILF gets crushed by the engine, it looks pretty ridiculous. Also, I also couldn't help but think of the death of Maud Flanders. That's all I was thinking about. Is when Lenny gets hit with a tire and he's like, "I'm okay," and then they're doing that for real.
That's a damn line, you know it. yeah. That first kill with the that piece of machinery that goes right through 2 people at the same time. That looked a little rough.
And the effect in 3D might have been neat, but outside of that, it wasn't.
That could be. Yeah. It was. This whole section is, as with these big catastrophes, it's pretty well done as far as filming and editing goes. I would say the weak link would be the CGI. It just doesn't quite have it.
Yeah, between 2, but from 2 through 4, this is my least favorite big inciting incident, because 2 was all physical and whatever, and this one just felt a little bit more weightless. And it was trying to do the 3D thing, and I think that again, that might have been neat in the theater, and it's something we've been hoping for with this, but it seemed a little lackluster in the execution. It doesn't seem like it can be enjoyed outside of the 3D.
So our main guy, Nick O'Banion. O'Banion? Okay. Obviously named after Dan O'Banion, who wrote Alien, and he wrote... Did he write Return of the Living Dead? I think so.
Yeah.
These movies are so chock full of every character having to be named after a horror director. And at first that's kind of fun, but now we're 4 in. It's kind of... Oh,
well, it makes sense now. There's the great German film director, Augustus Milf, that made those great Dracula movies.
Finally, yes.
Augustus Milf.
Right. I guess the one good thing about that is the fact that, Dan O'Banion probably hasn't been name checked in fictional worlds before, and he's a little bit further down, and I kind of dig that.
Yeah, he goes to see horror movie after horror movie, just hoping he gets mentioned, and finally he's he's got a little pennant of his own name in the audience.
It's always Officer Cronenberg or Officer Carpenter. When's it O'Banion's time?
Where's Dan's cut of the pie?
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to bring up the point that, is this the first time where we see our character that has the premonition call out what's going to happen each time? He has the premonition and then he says, a cowboy sits down, and he kind of proves it to his friends. Whereas in previous films, it's just somebody kind of freaking out and the friends have to trust
because the things happening are they mention one thing. It's it's been that long since I've seen them, but my brain is just so fried. Because I'm trying to think. The second one, she just freaks out because she's oh my God, she sees the thing. In the third one, she sees the gum. And then I think maybe she says one thing, but he is going through just counting out each individual thing. And they go through a bunch of them, including the thing where the MILF and her husband are worried how loud it's going to be at this thing. So she breaks off some tampons to put in her kids' ears. It's tampons in the ears. Tampons? Yes, they are a thing.
I did not realize using the cotton to put them in your ears was a thing.
Well, yeah. Well, no one seems to enjoy it other than the MILF. But I also like, though, because at the first I had the same thought. So I will give Hunt this that he calls out. He says,
"That's a lot of tampons for one woman."
Yeah, that seems excessive, but I don't know this lady's biology.
Yes,
that's her business. But yeah, he calls out all the things, and then he calls out 3 or 4 before he is we gotta go.
So they do make it outside. Of course, there's some misunderstandings and some tussling with the racist guy. But I did laugh at this initial kill when a giant tire comes out of nowhere and just squishes this one kind of tertiary character and cut to credits.
Yeah, there's a mechanic guy whose wife gets gushed by the tire. And then the racist guy in particular is battling with a black security guard because the black security guard will not let him back in.
Right.
Racist wife has been left to die. Maybe that's her name. Like
We're just racist wife.
Joanne, racist wife.
Yes.
Yeah. And then cut to credits, which is this. I kind of like the credit sequence. It's ridiculous, but it's this X-ray looking thing of skeletons getting murdered. All the different murders that have happened in the final universe, the final verse, the final destination verse up to this point, which was kind of fun. But like it was a lot like harder than I think the movies have been thus far. Usually there've been that traditional score, but this one was like, this ain't your daddy's final destination.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. And I did notice that it was only 13 minutes into the runtime at this point. And usually we get the big catastrophe around 20 minutes or so. So they were just like, let's get through this. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's get this. This is 2009, baby. We don't have time for this anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, they meet up at a coffee shop, the friends do, and Hunt does say, if we made it, we deserved it. So that, there's always got to be some like meathead guy who just like doesn't have a care in the world for what's actually going on. And of course he gets out a lucky coin and he starts flipping around on his fingers, and you're like, well, that's going to lead to his death somehow eventually.
Yeah. All I could think of was Val Kilmer as Iceman in Top Gun.
Yeah,
because he's doing the weird little like coin finger thing, and he's got like poofy blonde hair, and I'm like, ooh, Iceman.
Exactly.
I hope a plane hits this guy.
Right. They run into the MILF. You know what? I think somewhere along the line she did get a name because I jotted it down for the in memoriam so we can call her something other than MILF. Samantha. Yeah. She has a name. Yes, she has a name. Samantha.
Sorry, Samantha.
So they run into Samantha at the coffee shop, and she says,
I wanted to thank you. You're a hero. Because of your warning, we're alive, and our 2 sons are safe.
I always like that weird moment throughout these where there's like some memorial or something for the people that died, and all the people come up and be like, you're actually good that you freaked out and saved us. I mean, all these other people died and you didn't save them, but don't worry about that.
Right.
You saved me.
We got out.
And so we're good.
And of course, the racist guy thinks that the security guard literally killed his wife. And I just wrote, okay, please let him go first, which happens. Racist guy also who got a name, just Carter, even though I believe on IMDb he is just called racist.
Yeah.
Drives to the security guard's house. Security guard's name is George. Drives to George's house and literally tries to burn a cross on the guy's lawn.
This is great. I mean, not the burning the cross. No, this rules. I'm afraid that bum they didn't go through with it. No, so he's drinking, by the way, he's drinking Heiss Pale Ale. Again, bringing that. Yep, the brand of death. I like that. Listening to some like awful, I don't know if it's a screwdriver or some shit. And then, he gets out a cross and he goes to put it up in this guy's yard, set it on fire. And he's got this lucky horseshoe hanging from the rearview mirror that falls off and like hits. He doesn't turn off the car for whatever reason. But he turns off the radio, but it turns the radio back on and turns on Wars, Why Can't We Be Friends?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that was beautiful. I got such a huge kick out of that.
That was good.
And then like hits the gear shift, so slips into neutral or drive, whatever. Catches the guy with a dangling hook. Yeah, starts dragging along, and like it's spilling oil for some reason. It's like the gas that he was going to use to light the cross, and then the sparks of the chain hitting the ground ignites the fire. So he's just being drugged down the street to Why Can't We Be Friends while he's on fire.
While on fire, yeah.
And that's beautiful because what a great way to do, like, to murder a racist, but not like in a clapter way, not like going to stand up and like, see, we're taking a brave stand and be like, no, this guy's a fucking ridiculous person, so we're going to kill him in the most ridiculous way possible.
To me, it goes along with the kind of the Mel Brooks school of thought of like, no, we're going to like, yes, these people are dangerous, not taking away from that. However, we're going to make them look so much like fools as they go out. And I'm always kind of a fan of that.
But they hedge their bets a little bit on that. And we'll get to that when we get to the end of the movie.
just before this happens, actually, our hero Nick has a nightmare, and he wakes up and sees an X-Acto knife going right into his girlfriend's face in a photo, which kind of made me laugh. It's like a little on the nose, if you will.
I think that was something that bummed me out about the 3D thing. So his premonitions in this one, kind of like in 2, where she had these sort of disjointed kind of images. These are all just CG things, and so it's this like crappy CG background, and then like this grimy thing, and then like, oh, here's a pointed chain like coming at you or floating in midair, and it's like, I mean, it needs for the 3D effect. I'm sure it's great, but it just seems like, because it's like manufactured for that, it's just like a CG thing. It doesn't seem as impressive or interesting. It just seems like I picked up an item in a video game. Yeah,
it doesn't seem grounded in anything. But I guess that's the dream logic, if you will.
Yeah.
We cut to Samantha. Has a spa day treatment set up. As we get there, we see her 2 kids who are at the racetrack throwing rocks and stuff like that. And
I don't feel bad for making them put tampons in their ear, because those kids are jerks. So I'm like,
these kids kind of suck. Yeah. They're throwing rocks, making a nuisance of themselves, and this poor guy who's just trying to fill up a lawnmower gas tank while smoking a cigarette, as you do. He's just trying to do his job. He probably works for the city or whatever.
Yeah.
The mom has to get her spa treatment done, and you can tell that nobody there at the spa wants to take care of her. I guess like the person called out or something like that.
Yeah, the whoever was going to give her fancy haircut was unavailable, and so it's like 10 minutes before they close. Which, why would you book that anyway? But whatever. I don't run their business. But I got a big kick out of the fact that the receptionist is played by Tina Parker, who's more well known for playing Francesca, the grumpy receptionist on Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Like she was Saul's receptionist. So I was like, I got very excited to see her do the same thing, because she's good at it.
Also a receptionist,
But I got also excited because I had a great business idea, because as soon as she gets let in, they begrudgingly pull some strings, and the woman that is cutting her hair, pissed that she's there, that has to work late, she puts her in some stupid broken chair that like you pump it up with the hydraulics and it will just fall down again. So annoyed. And I started to think that there's this trend. I don't know if they still exist, because I'm mostly bald and cut my own hair. There was like the men's barber shops where you would like go and get an old timey shave and then give you whiskey and maybe like a cigar or something. You could probably make a killing doing a barbershop where you get lightly dommed. That's your is this like the staff is just mean to you, and you're like, boy. You still get a good haircut. The haircut's fine, but they just kind of treat you like dirt. And you could probably make some money off of that.
Haircut places often have puns in their name, and I'm a big fan of that. So I'm trying to think of what that BDSM haircut thing would be. It'll come to me by the end of the show, I'm sure.
If you have one, write in, because I'm sure like at 3 a.m. today, I'm going to be like, oh, God damn it. I'm surprised I didn't think of that first. I was too busy working on the scheduling. I didn't go for the pun name first. Working on logistics and inventory needs.
Yes, got to go right for the pun.
Like an idiot, yeah.
Get a good name, everything else happens. Of course, in the spa area, all manner of things just start happening, whether it be hair product and skincare product, just like squirting out of their bottles, getting tipped over or something like that. A whole bunch of Mr. X in this one, which is a fun one for the Mr. X. After a while, even the ceiling fan comes crashing down in front of her. That doesn't take her out. She gets all the way to the door, walking right out, says something about keeping an eye on her kids or something like that. And a stone that is whipped up from the old man's lawnmower launches right at her, goes right through her eyeball and out the back of her skull.
And he just keeps on going. He has no idea.
Everybody in the spa screams, of course, as you would. But lawnmower guy keeps right on cutting.
Work first. That's what matters.
Then we get to the researching the premonition scene. And so the 4 teens talk through what order is going to be. And of course, Hunt is just too cool for any of this, and he leaves. So
he doesn't just leave.
Yeah.
He's got a whole thing about how, like,
If you're right about this whole crash thing, then I'm going to make the most of every moment I have left. So I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to go get laid. If I'm dying, I'm trying.
It's this thing like the whole time I'm like, why are they friends with this guy? Because they're all like, because obviously they're a couple. This is the first time that like the two leads are actually a couple.
Oh yeah, good point.
But Lori and Nick are a couple, but then her friend. I thought Janet and Hunt were a thing, but I guess not. Janet is just there too, and so is Hunt. And Hunt is just a rich boy guy who's like, yeah, I'm gonna go have sex till I die.
That's funny. I just assumed that Janet and Hunt were together for some reason. And then maybe like Janet.
So did I, but then,
Janet and.
But the fact that he was like, I'm gonna go get laid, and no one went like, oh, what about Janet? You know,
very ethical non-monogamy. You know, very ethical.
Yeah, maybe they're entirely a polycule. They just don't go into
it. Right. So they go to the racetrack late that night to try to remember the order, and security guard George is there, and he takes him down to the main command center of the security. I guess you would call it not a command center, you'd call it a security office. You know, don't overplay.
No command center. I bet they call it a command center.
So they piece together the ordering of the catastrophe through the security cameras, and they notice that the mechanic is the next one to die. And so they hightail it the next day to the mechanic's place. His name is Andrew, I believe. And it's another great scene of walking into a room and noticing every possible thing that could kill you in a auto body garage.
Right, and which I love because, there's a lot of stuff in there, and then they end up causing a hydraulic lift to like almost fall on Andy. And then Andy's boss is like, they can't be in here. Get them out of here. It's like, why did you just walk in? Why didn't you go like, hi, can I talk to...
I'd be intimidated anyway.
You have an employee that almost died at a racetrack.
Right.
Yeah.
They take him outside.
That scene where they're like, they're going through like the order that people died or whatever is really grim.
Yes.
Like it's really such a fucked up thing that they don't really spend a lot of time with, but they're like, okay, we'd watch it. So like right now that guy would die. Meanwhile, all these other people are dying
around you.
They're like, we got to make sure that, I don't know. It just, it made the other deaths feel less than for the first time in this series.
True. Yeah.
And I bothered me. I don't know why it stuck out now, but it did.
Andrew follows them out, and they start chatting, and they're separated by a fence for some reason. I guess like, our main folks were on their way out to leave, and they started talking to Andrew through a chain link fence. At which point, the whole mousetrap starts up again, and a van comes barreling right at Andrew and gets like caught up right at the last moment. He's saved. Everything's all fine. Another, what was that? Like kind of like a CO2 tank or something like that?
It's an oxygen tank.
Comes like flying off of one of the machines right at Andrew and pushes him so hard he goes through the chain link fence, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
CGI is a little wonky here, and it could be another one of those 3D effects things like, chunks coming at you like a cheese grater.
A former guest of the show, Greg Bagoni, commented that it's like he's all of a sudden made of meatloaf.
Yes. Right.
But because he is just like, they just cut off some slices of that guy. I, of course, and we brought this up in 2 as well. That kind of thing happens. I immediately think of Resident Evil.
Oh,
sure enough, it was just as is that kind of chunky.
Right.
Oh God, we're gonna have to do those, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so he gets hit by that thing and gets slaughtered by a fence. Which I that's at least this movie has so far has been keeping I think it's still fairly ingenious in how it's been doing this. The rock through the eye is like, well, that's a simple thing, but they had fun with all the misdirects. Like I said, the racist death was pretty great. And this one, that like the fact that he was like sieved through a fence was pretty impressive.
Pretty smart. We cut to Hunt just having sex with some random woman inside of a tent at a country club. And then he just like grabs his phone and walks out. And this really hit home the Friday the 13th remake vibes. There you go.
It had the same kind of like gross sex scene where the dude is just kind of awful, and there was no comment about nipple placement whatsoever,
right?
which makes this somehow worse. Yes. It wasn't as funny as it thought it was. Then he goes outside and then starts hanging around his stupid country club.
Yeah,
because he's rich too. Because why not make him also?
Yeah, Nick has a premonition of water harming Hunt somehow. But of course Hunt's right at the pool. and he manages to accidentally start a pool drain while fighting with a child. I didn't think that, these drains would be this accessible, but there you go.
Well, it got shattered somehow. I didn't really catch why that happened.
Yeah. So Janet's driving around and, like a bird poops on her windshield. So she decides she needs to go to car wash. She gets into the car wash. Of course, the car wash starts malfunctioning like crazy. Now, this part I did actually like, because this is the first time in the series that we've cross-cut between two simultaneous deaths. And I was like, that's new for this film.
Is for an additional wrinkle, I liked this because he could not remember, Nick cannot remember who died first. Because they died very, very close together, but he can't remember who died first.
Yeah.
So they don't really know who to go bother and help along that process.
Yes.
So she gets trapped in this car wash. He is dealing with this pool stuff. Maybe he's going to die in the pool. Maybe she's going to die in the car wash. And it was a nice way to elevate it while staying true to the form, but add a twist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so Hunt, he's dropped his lucky coin, of course, down into the pool. And the pool is draining because he accidentally turned it on. So the pool drain is so hard, is like pulling with such force. He gets pulled into it, which is a little ridiculous.
Well, this whole thing is like, it's a ripoff of a Chuck Palahniuk story in Haunted. I've not read the entire book, but I've read that little short story about the same thing where a guy like goes and he figures out he can get his rocks off by sitting on a pool drain and having a kind of tickle the ivories, so to speak.
Yeah.
Then it kind of gets out of hand. And this one, he just gets trapped on his bunger.
Yeah.
And it doesn't spend a whole lot of time with it, but it pulls him through. You see the drain. I don't even know what that thing's supposed to be, but some pump starts spitting out blood. And then you see some goop later.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, this guy sucked. And I'm glad he had a painful death, but at the same time, it wasn't worth it.
No.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, George and Laurie are running around looking for Janet, and they manage to find her at the car wash. And George uses his car to push Laurie through and out of the car wash, out of the danger zone, because she's drowning in her car. Because I did laugh when that one pipe just opened up and just dumped right into her sunroof.
Yeah, there's a short, and no one is working at the car wash apparently, because it just starts filling her car with water. And I remember being a small child and being terrified of the car wash.
Yeah.
And I liked how they went, but what if that actually happened?
Right.
Because she starts drowning, starting to try to drown, but then she manages to get windows open or something like that. But then her head gets stuck in the sunroof. Yeah. And it escalates in this ridiculous manner that is very befitting of these movies.
Right. But they do end up saving her. They dodge a bunch of falling pipes and all that. And then at this point, they're back at George's house, and George realizes he's next, and he's very at peace with this. We learned that he killed his family in a drunk driving accident, and he's sat with that guilt all of his life. And right now he's just
no, it's okay.
What do you mean it's okay? I mean, maybe if we all stick together,
I'm at peace with it. And my family's waiting for me. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, there was the woman in 2 that kind of had that a little bit. But then when it came to it, she wasn't down with it. But when she met Hook Hand, the guy threw out all the prosthetics. Yes. But what I like is that he George tells them, he's I've made my peace with it. And then later there's a scene they are safe proofing their house, which I feel this is something we haven't seen in a bit. They're taping knives to cardboard, all this stuff. It's just trying to make it as safe as possible. And she's
it's he just accepted it. I think he's given up.
Yeah, he just told you he's given up. What do you mean? Mm-hmm. I'm starting to wonder about that George guy.
Right.
And, after everything we've been through, after watching all these gruesome, violent deaths, he somehow has lost his lust for life. Yeah. We should go check on him. Mm-hmm. And they do, and he is trying to hang himself.
Yeah.
And they're able to save him. But then it turns out he's been at this all day.
I mean, look, self-harm and suicide can be a triggering thing, obviously. However, this kind of joke works for me so well, because when he was just
I'm just trying to give God what I thought he wanted. I've been trying to kill myself all day. Took a bottle of painkillers. I just threw them up. Then I went to the garage, hooked the hose from the tailpipe, stuck it inside the car. The car kept stalling.
That made me laugh, but he
just can't get it done.
The performance actually sold it though too. Like the actor's great in this moment, but it's still kind of funny to me.
Oh, it's very funny. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. But yeah, so they start to figure out like, well, wait a minute. Well, if he can't die, that must mean we broke the chain,
right?
Like we saving Janet just derailed it.
Yeah.
One thing that I kind of like is that you as the audience, if you've been following these movies, you know what the deal is, but they don't. No one in the movie does. And so they can go like, well, I'm just, we're playing it by ear. I had this premonition. Turns out I say people, my goofball internet research said that if we can, skip, like derail it, maybe we can skip some people. I'm like, yeah, so it's all done now.
Yeah.
We saved the day. And you as the audience, like that's not the case, but like there's no reason for them to know.
What player's handbook did they consult to get that like rule for them, Like who decided on these?
There's no Tony Todd to hold their hand.
Right. They toast here to the fact that they've been given a second chance, and it's so totally like on the nose now that that's over, and lots of affirmations about, well, you only live once, so we got to do this. Like, and I just thought, like, man, they believed this so quickly. They I would have a whole lot of trepidation about it. I'd be like, hey guys, I think we did it. I don't know. I'm still going to be careful with everything I do for the next week.
Still be, You've also just witnessed a whole bunch of gruesome deaths. That's going to weigh on you.
Yeah.
And I like that she is, you know what? Hey, I'm going to go celebrate by watching a movie about a bunch of murders.
Right. Yeah.
Called Love Lays Dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is something, I got a kick out of this simply because there is a story from my own history. This kid I grew up with, he lived a block over. I was in college at the time. He got super into like stereo equipment and like car stereo stuff, befriended some people from the wrong side of the tracks, ended up getting almost stabbed to death by this guy as part of a gang initiation thing and like left to die. Using his Boy Scout training and knowledge, this kid was an Eagle Scout, like crawled up to a house, wrote the assailants' names in blood on the
Good
car.
Gosh.
Yeah. Crawled up to this house, got help, like asked to use their phone, got help, like doubt. He's a very Christian guy, forgave him. This whole thing survived. That Christmas, I see him at like the AMC, the multiplex.
Yeah.
And I was like, Scott, I got to tell you, like, that's amazing what you went through. I'm sure you've heard about this a lot, but like, I'm so glad you're still around and all this stuff. Anyway, what are you seeing? Oh, I'm seeing Jerry Springer Ringmaster. You know what? Fine. Have fun. Right. Have just the best time, man. You earned it.
Good gosh. Yeah, I mean, what could Jerry Springer do to him in that moment that hasn't already been done to him?
That's right. Yeah. So you know what? Yeah, go see Love Lays Dying.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah.
If that's, I'm not gonna judge you.
Right.
But death will absolutely judge you.
Yeah. So at this point, Nick has another vision of a water-based death with an absolutely terrible CGI snake. It's I guess this is the first time that he's had a vision recently. Turns out the cowboy didn't die after all, and he was recovered from the rubble, and he's at the hospital right now, hooked up to machines. And we see just on the floor above him, just above him, is a water therapy tank, and there's an old gentleman in there. The water therapy tank starts overflowing because there's no safety measures for this type of thing, evidently.
Nope. Yeah. And he gets left alone by the attendant that's taking care of him. Once again, the two biggest enemies in Final Destination universe meet: liquids and the American healthcare system, all combined. Right. But this is what I'm talking about, them pulling their punches, because for whatever reason, when we're seeing this all get set up, the guy is the doctor or nurse, whatever, is filling the tank.
You feeling okay, Mr. Suvi?
Why do you care? You know how many of your kind I killed in Korea?
I'm Chinese, sir.
And I like how the movie's like, hey, so racists, you can't be mad at us because we killed a racist, but we're letting this guy live.
Yep,
so
playing
we're
both
going to our
sides
best with racists.
Right.
The Tea Party's starting to show up, so we're kind of,
That would have been Tea Party time, yeah.
But yeah, so they leaves the guy alone hanging, and then because he has to go do who knows what else.
Yeah.
And yeah, the water starts overflowing. to the point that it's like seeping through the area below, the room below. And they just kind of go through the cowboy real quick.
Yes.
They're like, he's alive. Now we're done with him.
Yeah.
He's dead. Like, oh, we're going to go try to save him. Now I got like shit collapse on him. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, I
Moving
think
on.
he like falls out of the hospital bed and tries to like crawl away. But just as Nick throws open the door, the entire water tank falls and crushes him from the ceiling above. So yeah, that wrinkle was only there for, a good 2 minutes or so.
Yeah. But it does provide a great moment, set up a great moment after this, where they're walking out. He and George are together to try to save this guy. And they're walking out. He starts explaining about how this is probably not the case, that it's not over. And George starts talking about deja vu.
Yep.
Man, I'm feeling something.
Don't lose hope, man. I think we just keep an eye out for any signs of danger. I think we got a shot, okay? Let's just go find Lori and Janet.
No, not that. I mean, it's like deja vu.
And gets creamed the same way that Terry does from part one. A vehicle out of nowhere just
As an ambulance,
creams
I
him.
think, even, which is kind of amazing.
It's an ambulance, which is great because then when he goes over to look, like no one's driving the ambulance, no one like gets out and is like, oh my God, it's just, it's just, apparently a transformer just ran him over.
Right.
But I like that subtle call out because I was thinking about how this is 4 movies in and this is already, self-referentiality is, the corner of the realm is so often in these things. And the fact they really haven't done that yet, I kind of applaud. And this is a decent way to do it. That's it's a stupid little callback, the deja vu. You can go like, aha, from the first one. But if you didn't get it,
it's okay. It was still a funny, like effective, like gut punch right away.
Yeah.
We're at a mall at this point. Lauren gets her shoelace stuck in an escalator, but she quickly snaps it off. There's lots of like little fake outs that start to happen again.
That was driving me crazy because she's like, my shoelace is stuck. And just take off the shoe.
Yeah,
just take off the shoe.
Right. Yeah.
This isn't that big of it. I know you just bought the shoe, and there was a conversation about your shoes. But guess what? There have been a lot of ugly ass shoes in this movie.
Yes.
I don't remember if it's her or if it's Janet. There's a part where they're like driving and you see their shoes. Looks like they bought their shoes at Pier 1 Imports.
Right.
Terrible.
Yeah. The girls are in a movie theater at this point, and it's a 3D movie that they're seeing. Whole audience full of people wearing 3D glasses. But then all around her, I thought this was actually a little clever. All around her were other people saying stuff that was said at the racetrack, like down in front, don't put your foot up there, plug your ears. This might be too little loud in the theater. That was kind of clever. Nick is starting to run through the theaters looking for Lori. He's worried that, she could be next. We see it play out, though, right? Just like the first big catastrophe where the theater blows up right when a countdown on screen happens.
On screen happens. And it's funny because like the countdown on screen happens like multiple times. So it's like they're watching a Final Destination movie. Because I was thinking like, boy, it'd be nice if this movie had more than one scene in it. But then I'm like, wait a minute. No, they're doing the Final Destination.
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So again, more self-referentiality. But this one was a little bit less effective, but still, whatever. It was fun.
Yeah. So Janet and the whole audience like gets impaled and crushed with 3D stuff. Lori then gets pulled down into the escalator as they're trying to run away. This time her shoelace won't come out, and the escalator is all damaged and the gears are opened up, and she gets pulled down into the guts of the escalator. That was pretty great.
Yeah,
I like that one.
Yeah, I wasn't aware escalators were powered by meat grinders, but
that's all the
in this universe, absolutely.
Yeah,
good God.
And of course, this was
Jigsaw built these things.
Right. This is all premonition. So kind of like rewind the tape a little bit. Nick starts running through the theater looking for Lori.
Before we get to that, but I like with the premonition, the it's all premonition, but the premonition is at the moment right before George gets hit by the car.
Oh, yes.
And so you just see Nick go, wait, gold, and then like take off. He doesn't even hang out for George's death now.
Nope.
Yeah.
This time we realized that the explosion, which I don't think we had any idea how that happened in the first time during the premonition, was there's some construction going on in the theater, and of course it's being done by the worst construction workers ever, who like leave tools around. I mean, there's canisters of explosive devices that are just like in the mall for no apparent reason. I think the one sign just says like explosive material or something like that.
This does have kind of a feel again of that, like of a lot of the accidents happening due to negligence. it feels like one of those like shake hands with danger, or
Right.
blood on the asphalt,
Yes.
but for forklift drivers.
Yeah,
like that kind of like safety video gone wrong.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely in here, especially with Nick trying to can't remember all the steps to it, but essentially a fire starts in this construction room. Nick tries to put it out. He manages to accidentally set off a nail gun, which shoots him right in the arm and keeps him completely stuck to a wall for a good portion of the scene, which is kind of funny.
And it's hilarious, because the nail gun falls off and it's just bouncing on its head, but keeps firing nails.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a bad design.
Right.
It should not happen.
Yeah.
I'm writing a letter to fictional Black and Decker instead of paying attention to the movie.
Yeah, he eventually gets the sprinkler system to go off by holding up a flaming piece of wood to the sprinkler system, puts out all the fires, and everything is all good.
Ooh,
yeah.
That was close.
Yes. I guess he, tears his arm out and manages to get it wrapped up. We cut to a few days in the future. They're getting ready to go on a trip to, this was my question. Did they just decide to cancel their trip to Amsterdam here after that? I guess after all that.
Because they're like, let's live life by going to the same coffee shop. But this time I'm going to order a chocochino.
Yeah, right. And I mean, I guess all that stuff with Nick trying to put out the flammable liquids and stop the explosion, that was fine. But at the end of it, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's done already. It didn't amount to a whole lot to me, especially after you have somebody ground up in an escalator gears. That was the best ending. So it felt a little anticlimactic going through that stuff, I guess.
Yeah. And then, when they're at this coffee shop and it's him, Lori, and Janet, and he gets this ridiculous drink and they're making fun of him for it. They're like, how about flavored coffee? Mm-hmm. Then this black homeless man that was in the movie earlier comes up and does some Bagger Vance shit about just it felt kind of out of the blue. Why are we introducing this element to it now? But all right, thank you, mystical black man. And then they sit down. And he starts looking there's all these coincidences going on. He sees an ad for a popular movie, Lovelace Dying. That's, oh my God, how weird. But then all the other little things. And he goes, wait a minute. What if this was just setting us up? What if this was death just setting us up to really get us? And then they get hit by a truck. Mm-hmm. A truck comes flying, and they get hit by a truck so hard they land in total recall. Yeah. Because we're back to the X-ray skeletons, the green X-ray skeletons, as the credits roll. Yeah, and you're seeing a lot of the deaths in the movie again, which was a fun thing that I guess death was this was actually the machination was this whole movie, just to kill us,
to get the three in the same room.
This one was it had kind of ridiculousness of two, but it didn't reach those same heights for me. And I think the characters were there was just nothing to most of them.
Nothing.
I mean, the fact that they could barely even name them, I think speaks to that. Yeah. It was hard. It was kind of a jolt coming from 3, which was, a little bit more heartfelt or thought through. Well, thought through is not a word, but again, try to repersonalize it, bring it to have people having emotions about it. To not only people not having emotions about it, but just no one mattering or I couldn't tell you any discernible features of Nick. There was nothing to him as a character.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, the tone wasn't quite there on this one. It wasn't slapstick enough to be a rollicking good time, I guess.
It wanted to be a little edgy, and it didn't really feel like it. It feel like it was trying to be maybe it was a studio note or something. Wanted to have this edge to it that just wasn't there, but then they didn't go silly enough with it. So
I guess I want my Final Destinations to be sillier. And this one didn't quite have it. Plus the CGI stuff just didn't really work.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's just if it didn't age well, or if it's a good possibility is that a lot of their budget went into making it 3D rather than making the stuff look. So we can't spend as much time on this, so we have to because we're too busy trying to make it 3D. I don't know how it all works, but so definitely not starting to get some diminishing returns. Doesn't hurt by any means, but this is certainly my least favorite thus far.
Agreed. And even if it is our least favorite, we still have to honor our dead, which we do every week. Carter Daniels, played by Justin Wellborn, died in truck explosion. Samantha Lane, played by Krista Allen. Stone shot through eyeball. Andy Quezer, played by Andrew Vasella. Dice through torso by wire fence. Hunt Wynorski, played by Nick Zano. Sucked through a pool drain. Jonathan Groves, played by Jackson Walker. Crushed by overflowing bathtub. George Lantner, played by McKetty Williamson. Hit and splattered by ambulance. Janet Cunningham, played by Haley Webb. Crushed by semi-truck wheel. Lori Milligan, played by Chantel Van Santen. Neck twisted between pillar and truck. Nick O'Banion, played by Bobby Campo. Head bashed into wall. That was a total of 9 deaths for this one. So it felt like, I mean, although if you think about it, 3 of them happen right at the very end. So like that's, a solid 30% of your kills happen like right at the very end in one scene. Yeah. So not how we like our body count usually. I guess is what we say.
Do better. Get those numbers up.
There are rules. Yeah.
Like I didn't know who to. There was no character I glommed onto this time, other than like my dislike for Hunt. And like George was all right, but like not enough that I was that interested in him. But there's still there's some great moments. There's some really fun stuff in here, and it's still a fun ride. And I gotta salute him for like, this is the 4th one. Guess what? We're doing more of the same. Like we're gonna try to add some little wrinkles, but it doesn't need to be a whole new thing now.
Yes, yeah. Now that you mention it, like I like George probably the best. He had something going on actually. He had a little bit of sympathy, like, and I could tell what he was trying to do, and also just like, damn, that was funny. Like him just trying to like off himself all day, Like I could watch a short film of that.
It's terrible, but it's very darkly funny. Yeah.
So that's The Final Destination. I can't even remember if we brought that up. This was not called Final Destination Part 4. This is The Final Destination. So this was going to be the last one. That's how we're going to go out. Just like 3 kids getting hit by a truck, in a coffee shop. But that was supposed to be the last one until, of course, this one did okay enough at the box office to greenlight Final Destination 5 a couple of years later.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about next week.
Yeah, there was going to be an alternate ending to this where Nick realizes that he has to kill himself for the chain to end. Kind of like, again, going back to 2, where she kind of figures out. Yeah. Although the ending to 2, like that still doesn't make any sense to me. But so he just jumps out a window. He puts out the fire. But then he just jumps out a window. And then Janet and Lori think it's over. And then a car hits a crane with a AC unit, and the unit drops and crushes Lori and Janet. We see earlier where she's like, "That's not safe." She calls that out. Yeah.
Okay.
But they scrapped it because it contains a contradiction to the apparent rules of death. Because if the person is next to die, any suicidal attempt and possibly attempt by another party on the person's life will fail.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It's George. And then in part 2, when Eugene tries to shoot himself in the head and all the bullets don't fire. So they're like, well, I guess that doesn't work. Although I would have liked to have seen that scene, though, where he just jumps out the window and like bounces and gets right back up.
Yeah.
That didn't work. Nuts. That's right.
Walks under a falling piano and only like it crushed him, but then like his teeth are just piano keys. He's like, damn it. Yeah. It just turns into a Looney Tune. All right. Well, that's part 4. We'll be back next week with part 5. If you are so inclined, check us out on Instagram at This May Hurt a Bit Pod and on Twitter at Hurt a Bit. And write in, tell us what you think of the movies, what your favorite kill is, what your favorite Final Destination is. What name of the Dom hair salon, the BDSM hair salon. Right. Because we didn't come up with it. What that should be. I'll think of it tonight, I'm sure. All right. At any rate, we will see you next week with part 5. All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. This has been a Two Penguins media production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at This May Hurt a Bit Pod and on Twitter at Hurt a Bit. Email us at thismayhurtabit@gmail.com. And if you are so inclined, rate and review us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.